From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Demon rabbits, Frankenstein bunnies. Phrases like those went viral this week after photos were published of rabbits near Fort Collins that appeared to have horns or tentacles on or around their heads. Wildlife officials say the unusual-looking rabbits aren't a cause for concern. They're suffering from an unusual disease that is harmless to humans, called rabbit or Shope papillomavirus. By the way, if you haven't seen the rabbits, we have photos at KUNC.org. All that attention got us wondering how these cottontails caught this very odd disease, why it causes growths, and what wildlife officials are doing about the Franken bunnies. So we called up Colorado Parks and Wildlife spokesperson Kara Van Hoose for details. Kara, this story has certainly captured the world's attention. The rabbits have people fascinated, maybe horrified is a better word. But how unusual is the Shope papillomavirus?
It's not unusual in Colorado. It happens every summer. It's pretty cyclical. So I think that's why we're a little surprised at the level of interest that the internet and then people just have in these rabbits. When I would talk with our veterinarians over at our wildlife lab, they're like, why are you asking about this? This happens every year. I said, I know it does, but for some reason, everybody is freaking out about these rabbits.
Well, the virus exists kind of year-round, right?
Yes.
How does it get transmitted?
So it's transmitted through biting insects like fleas, ticks, or mosquitoes, and it peaks in the transmission cycle in the summer. So that's when we normally see those little insects to be the most active. And then, of course, they're either dead or dormant in the winter. So then when they bite and infect the rabbits with this virus, the rabbits start to grow these almost like wart-like things on their faces. And they can look different for each rabbit. You know, they can be like small, round, or they can, become more conical, like tentacles or horns. But then they really start to exhibit in the summertime. And of course, rabbits are everywhere in Colorado. They're right in our neighborhoods, they're on the plains, they're in the mountains, they're everywhere. So
in our gardens.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes wanted or unwanted. And people have started to take notice. And then, all it takes is just one photo on social media and they go viral.
No pun intended?
Maybe some pun intended.
Is this contagious to other species? I mean, just to confirm, should we be worried about our pets or maybe ourselves?
So this particular strain of the papillomavirus only affects rabbits. So it could infect domestic rabbits if you have one in your home and then you let it out in your backyard or something like that. But it's not transmitted to dogs or humans or other things like that. We see a different strain of the papillomavirus in deer or elk. They can grow these things on their faces, but that's not something that we see from the rabbits necessarily. So it's a different strain.
Okay. So this is something that happens every year, but I have to say, seeing a rabbit with these black tentacles growing from their faces, unsettling. Is the virus harmful to the rabbits that are infected with it?
They're mostly benign. So if you just think of it like if you grew a wart, it's kind of the same principle there. And since this is a virus, the rabbits are able to defeat it and kind of clear it from their system. Their immune system will take care of it eventually, and the growths will fall off.
Okay.
It could be harmful to the rabbit if the rabbit has some sort of underlying medical condition, like some other thing going on with their health that maybe this exacerbates it, or if it starts to grow in really sensitive areas like the eyes or the mouth and sort of impedes its ability to eat.
Well, Kara, the virus was discovered and named in the 1930s by Dr. Richard Shope, but it certainly has existed for much longer, and it may have even inspired the legend of the jackalope, a mythical creature that is basically a jackrabbit with antelope horns. I'm curious if are you getting more calls about them this year than in the past?
I would say we are taking more calls about them since the first news story was published. So I think people probably saw them before and maybe just thought, oh, what was that on that rabbit? But since they saw a news story or something on their social media, now they're calling us, and we have seen an uptick in calls kind of in the northern Colorado area. So it's possible maybe there are more rabbits with the virus this year, but it's also possible maybe people are just taking notice for the first time.
Yeah, maybe like kind of trying to get a sighting like Bigfoot or something. What do you think about these nicknames like Frankenbunny?
I'm a fan of anything that combines, sort of like demon horns and then rabbits. I really enjoy the creativity that people have taken with this. I do like to think about if this was sort of the genesis for the jackalope myth, or myth in quotation marks, because we don't really know for sure.
True.
But people have just gotten really creative that I enjoy. I think science is fun and nature is fun. And anything that sort of sparks that creativity or that interest, I think is really good.
So when you get a lot of calls about these rabbits, how does Parks and Wildlife respond?
First, we try to just gather some more information. Where did you see the rabbit? Did it look like it was having trouble eating? Was it still able to move? So you just do kind of a quick health assessment with the person who's calling. And then you can also just give some education. Sometimes people just want to let us know that they saw it. Sometimes they have more questions. So it's a chance for us to open up that conversation and to really let them know about viruses that exist that could affect wildlife, what to do if you encounter one, and use that as kind of a teaching tool.
What are some other odd features on animals that have prompted people to call Colorado Parks and Wildlife?
Oh, we get calls about a lot of different things. It could be something like growths that they see, maybe another like antler or spike that's coming up on a deer. Maybe it's an animal that's an unexpected color, something like a leucistic animal that's sort of like an albino strain, or like a genetic abnormality or something like that.
Sure.
Because we have so much wildlife in Colorado, we have so much more opportunity for those abnormalities within our animals. So people call us with all sorts of things. One of my favorite things that happens is when the ungulates, so the deer, elk, start to shed their velvet in the fall, kind of getting ready for the rut or their mating season.
Right.
And these are like bacteria, kind of velvety things that grow on their antlers that have blood vessels in them.
Oh.
So when they start to shed, they just kind of drip down from their antlers. It looks so goth. It's just like the perfect like lead into mating season. Like, oh, you want to fight? Like, look at these things that are coming off of me. Like, I've already defeated all of my enemies. I think if you haven't seen it before from Colorado, you're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this deer? And you're like, no, it's really common. It's okay.
Well, and finally, Kara, what do you think it is about this story that has people so fascinated right now? I mean, is it the memes and clever names that are causing these bunnies to have a moment?
I think a lot of people just love rabbits and kind of know what rabbits are supposed to look like. So when you see something on its face that maybe shouldn't be there and is turning it into this whole other like nightmare creature, maybe you weren't expecting, people take an interest in that. And then, yeah, it's your chance to give it a strange name or to chime in with what you think it really looks like. And I'm excited to see people taking an interest in wildlife and maybe trying to learn a bit more.
Kara Van Hoose is a spokesperson for Colorado Parks and Wildlife. You can find more information and see a few photos and a video of what a Frankenbunny looks like at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.